Hello, welcome to David's Den. I am David and I make videos here on YouTube about Stephen King, his novels, his short stories, and any adaptations that were made for film or television. Except today, we are going to be starting with a next series of our Night Shift vlog, and it actually happens to be the very first ever podcast adaptation of a Stephen King work. So that's really exciting. I missed it when it first aired, which was last year, 2021, September into October. It's 8 episodes and it's leading into Halloween, right? Perfect time for a Stephen King story. It's called Strawberry Spring. Strawberry Spring was originally a short story that was published in Ubris magazine in 1968. I have a note. Yes. 1968. And that makes it probably one of the earliest published short stories in the Night Shift collection, which weren't all amassed and published until 1978, 10 years later. Now, Strawberry Spring, if you want to know more of my in-depth thoughts on it, of course, you can check out the Night Shift reading vlog if you haven't already. Quick recap and spoiler warning for everything short story, because I'm going to be talking about how things line up and where things might be going for those of us who know how the short story ends and seeing how the craft of the adaptation kind of pairs up. And I'm also going to be, I guess, spoiling the episodes of Strawberry Spring as we go. So spoiler warnings for all things Strawberry Spring episode 1 of the podcast and all things Strawberry Spring short story. That took way too long. So Strawberry Spring is about Henry Denton. He goes to New Sharon Teachers College in somewhere in New England. It's not quite specified. We know that it's been a very harsh winter, and now we have what's called a strawberry spring. That means a false spring. Suddenly the snow starts melting. It gets really foggy. You can smell the sea air. It's talked about as being, I think, 20 miles away, and you can the shore, and you can still smell the sea air, and you can't see the faces. There's one line that I really love. I'll put it up. I'm going to get it wrong. It's something along the lines of, in the fog, I saw many bodies. I passed many shadows, but I saw no faces. I think it is exquisitely written, that sentence I'm talking about. But yes, the whole story. It is not one of my personal favorites in Night Shift. Again, I put all of that out in the Night Shift reading vlog, so check that out. And I've lost where I was. It's a strawberry spring. It means it's a false spring. So this fog comes in, it rains, it's hard to see people, you smell the air, it starts getting warmer, and then after, a couple days, a week, it goes away and you're hit with one of the hardest snowstorms of the season. And strawberry springs only happen about every 8 to 10 years. And as we start the short story, Strawberry Spring, we have a man who is saying it's Strawberry Spring. He's waking up, he's seeing it, and he's remembering 8 years earlier, Henry Denton, when he was a student at New Sharon Teachers College. And he starts remembering this series of murders that happened during that Strawberry Spring. And then the story unfolds from there. Now we're going to get into the first podcast, which was done by Audio Up, I think, right? Yes, Audio Up. You can find it wherever you find your podcasts, I think. I personally found it on Spotify. And it stars, what's his name? He's some big actor when I looked him up that I don't know. Garrett Hedlund, who was in, let's figure it out real quick. Oh, Mudbound. That's what I really liked from a few years ago that he was in. United States versus Billie Holiday. That was last year's Oscar nominee that I really enjoyed that he was in. Okay, so yeah, we actually, I wasn't sure who Garrett Hedlund was, but it turns out I actually really like him. And it also has Milo Ventimiglia, who I know he's a huge guy on This Is Us. I never watched that show. I know him from Heroes, and I thought he was a little too wooden. I'm willing to give him another chance because, again, I have one impression of him. Not saying that he's bad. Hell, his career is bigger than mine is. So I'll give that to you. I wish I had a career like any of these people. So we are now in a podcast which turned into basically an old style radio play format where we have the sound effects of, people skidding on ice, which brings me to the very first scene, which is a woman walking through the fog saying, oh my God, I can't see anything. I just need to get home. And I hear noises and I think fraternity boys are playing pranks on me. And the dialogue is a little obvious, but my initial apprehension at that, going, oh, it sounds like they're just reading off the page. Garrett Hedlund did a much more natural performance, except for the really scripted segments, which are quotes directly from the book. And he says that I basically wrote the book on the Strawberry Spring Killer, whose name is Spring-Heeled Jack. And he tells us right away in the first 2-3 minutes, I basically wrote the book on this. And then it sounds like he's reading excerpts from the book. So I don't mind that so much. It's more the dialogue and the interaction, and when people speak to themselves, and I get it. That rustling is a cat in a box with paper behind me. Are you done, Hugo? Okay, you get comfortable. The dialogue seemed a little wooden, and my first kind of to that was this girl walking to her car going, oh, those frat boys are such jerks trying to play tricks on me. And most people just think that. They wouldn't start saying it out loud unless they were talking to someone, and I get it for the radio play. But ultimately what is fleshed out, the style that's fleshed out, is this very film noir kind of old Sam Spade radio style programs like War of the Worlds and all of that. I wonder if they're getting an homage or paying homage to War of the Worlds, because we get Milo Ventimiglia as this DJ on the radio announcing that this girl's been killed. Then we get Henry Denton waking up with his wife who's pregnant, and they hear it again. Somebody's being killed the night before, and he starts remembering 8 years earlier. Well, that's exactly like the short story, except we don't know his profession. It sounds at the beginning like he's a police officer, but I'm not quite so sure, because he also says he wrote the book. And when we jump back 8 years and he's a student, he's a journalism major. And the Milo Ventimiglia character, who is named, I'm terrible with names if I don't have faces to go with them, Kevin Hartigan. The Kevin Hartigan character that was the DJ is now, 8 years prior, the DJ on the college radio station, trying to get the scoop on the story, right? So the framing device that's new, and I actually think it works for this medium, is to make our lead character a journalist who's investigating the story, not just somebody reminiscing. So it makes it really exciting. There's a sense of urgency and immediacy as the first girl dies and the police come onto campus, and the story pretty much goes the way that it goes in the short story. Some of the... I was about to start talking about technical elements, but before we get there, I just had 3 different trains running on 3 different tracks that all crossed in my head. I should have made notes before I started this. That's what worked for me for Chapelwaite. Learn, David. What was I going to say? Oh, and the homage to who Stephen King is, right? So again, like Chapelwaite with the Rebecca Morgan stand-in, and if we go back to the novels we've read, Ben Mears, and to an extent Mark Petrie in Salem's Lot, or Jack Torrance in The Shining, Stephen King always gives us a stand-in for himself as the author, and they usually have traits that are associated with Stephen King. And King is known to be very vocal about his time as an alcoholic, and even if you watch some speeches and keynote addresses he gave while he was still, well, I guess you're always an alcoholic, but before he was in recovery, he talks about chewing Excedrin and aspirin for his bad headaches, and the coffee, the instant coffee in the morning. And the end of this first episode, our Henry Denton character says, I'll be fine as long as I have aspirin and instant coffee. It's kind of a great nod to being and also that he's an author that literally wrote the book, although that could also be figurative. It's not quite laid out specifically enough for me yet, because I think he's a police officer now, but was a journalism major, and then maybe he wrote the book. So yeah, I'm not quite solidified on what the present day is yet. But the story that's happening in the past, we get more characters. They get to flesh it out by giving us somebody else who works for the newspaper at the school, whose father happens to be the sheriff, right? And we don't really get a sheriff character in the short story, but we do get the police presence on campus. So I think that we're getting a really great way into the story, and I can't wait to see where it goes. So far, it's as faithful as it can be for fleshing out 12-ish page story into 8 half-hour episodes. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes. My only kind of real problem so far has been the sound element, the way that it was mixed. Whenever Headland starts talking as if he's reading from the book, we get this weird background room tone where it's almost staticky. I think the mixing of the sound effects when the doors open, when people kiss, except for the time you could really only hear one person kiss and not like a double smooch. I can't do that. I'm only one person. Here, maybe if I go and then put them together, right? Like that sound, we only got one of them. It's so random, but I heard it and it took me out for a second, right? So some of the sound mixing is really an interesting choice, although the sound effects are superb. So I wonder how that's going to affect my thinking on this as a podcast, as an audio medium moving forward. All right, guys, so that was my initial thoughts on the very first episode of Strawberry Spring. My plan is to roll these out fairly quickly as I watch it. As I listen to it, I'm going to be giving you these vlog styles. I happen to be at home and about to record some watch-alongs and movie vlogs, so I had my whole setup. I may do it more like night shift reading vlogs, where if I listen to it on the subway, I might just, hold my phone and tell you while I'm out and about. But frankly, I wasn't such a huge fan of that style. I don't know if I'm going to do that for the next short story collection. Yeah, I'll probably set up like this. Now I'm thinking out loud, and I want your thoughts into the creative process. Which do you guys enjoy more? More of a polished look or more of a, hey, I'm walking through New York City look? Let me know, and then maybe I'll follow it and maybe I'll ignore it. So my plan is to continue going with the movie vlogs, and every few days or so try to roll one of these out for Strawberry Spring. So you're going to be getting the normal Thursday postings, and next up I believe is The Lawnmower Man, which is actually one of the Stephen King movies I've never seen because I heard it departed so much from the short story. But it has Pierce Brosnan in it, in like early 1990s, so eye candy. At least, I guess. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So that's going to come out next Thursday. These will roll out as I can listen to the podcast and get set up to record these for you. If you guys want to follow me along all my social media or support me over on Patreon, where there are a lot of benefits, you get a lot of these videos completely unedited with all the snafus and my mind tangents and my ramblings. Click all those links down below in the comments, and I will see you guys next time.